Assalamu alaikum. It's Dr. Nasir again. How is everyone? How are you keeping? How is life? How are wives? Okay. So, in today's lecture and today's video, we are going to talk about a very sensitive issue. Sensitive in the sense that it relates to correction. Correction is a very common right thing, but it depends actually on the level of correction, right? The level of correction, that means that to the thing that you are discussing, right, how serious that thing is. So this thing is a bit serious in the sense that these are different expressions, and these expressions have been used by different channels of English. Okay, and channel of English are contributing a lot. Some are very good, some are extremely good, but some are just creating fuss. So our purpose is not criticizing anyone, not castigating anyone. The only purpose is just to set the thing straight. Okay, so these are different expressions, as you can see over here. Let's start with the first. The first expression is, in this lesson we are only discussing adjectives related to feeling. Let me repeat. In this lesson we are only discussing adjectives related to feeling. So for a layman it might be okay, right? If you just talk in terms of basic sense of grammar, it might be considered okay. But the problem is when you talk in terms of usage, right? So first of all, try to be clear about two things. The first is grammar. Grammar. Please give me another marker here if you don't mind. Give me a marker. The first thing is marker, black one. The first is grammar and the second is usage. Okay, these two things are black one. So what do you think? Have you heard? Obviously all of you are familiar with this thing, that grammar is grammar and the second thing is what we call usage. Okay, what's the difference between these two? GRAMMAR, grammar and usage. Okay, the difference is even right kid knows that rules of grammar, rules of this and that. Okay, the basic rules of right grammar, they come in grammar. But when you talk right in advanced terms, right, when you say the language of grammarians, right, so we call that usage. Usage stands for, in very simple words, grammar of grammarians. Grammar of grammarians. Are you getting? It means grammar of grammarians. So that means when you talk of usage, so you have to be very formal. Okay, in routine conversation, right, grammar doesn't count that much. There is no need of right usage or something like that. Okay, but in writing especially, usage counts a lot, and because that is considered grammar used by grammarians, from this you can guess that usage is something very formal, right? Okay, so as I said, that in this lesson we are only discussing adjectives related to feeling. What is your perception? This expression is fine or not? This expression is okay? This expression is okay or not? So yes, okay, apparently it's fine, but if you, right, this thing has been used by, right, if you just focus on this thing, only discussing, yes, apparently everything is fine, right, all the words are correct, but there is a very glaring mistake, a sort of howler, and that is If you translate this thing, it gives the impression that perhaps you want to say in this lesson we are only discussing, we will just discuss adjectives. Right? The person who actually is saying this thing, he or she doesn't want to say this thing. He or she wants to say something different. Here the focus is not on discussion. The focus is on adjectives. Okay? So grammatically we call it what? We call this thing misplaced modification. Misplaced modification. It's a very important rule, misplaced modification. Okay? Misplaced modification means that sometimes we don't use words in their proper place, right? Suppose only over here is changing this thing, right? It is changing this thing. Okay? It gives the impression we are just discussing, but actually we want to say we will talk about adjectives. So the word only is not at its proper place, it is misplaced. So what do you think? If we change its position a bit, so it would be like what? It would be like, in this lesson we are discussing, right? We are discussing, and then you modify that thing, we are discussing what? In this lesson we are discussing, and then after change it would become what? We are discussing, fine. And if I say we are discussing only, if I put only over here instead of this, we are only discussing, no sorry, we are discussing what? We are discussing only adjectives related to feeling, right? So now this thing is at its proper place. The focus is on adjectives, only adjectives, not only discussion, right? Suppose you say something like this. First you have to use the main verb, and then you have to modify that. If you don't do that thing, so obviously there would be sort of improper modification, and technically we call that misplaced modification. Got this? In terms of usage, it's a very serious mistake, otherwise it might not be that serious or something like that. Got the idea? Okay. So let's take this one. The expression is boring and bored are also both adjectives, right? I have not written this thing, I have seen this in somewhere on some channel, perhaps a popular one. Boring and bored are also both adjectives. The person who is actually teaching this thing, he or she wants to say boring and bored are also both adjectives. These two words, both these words are adjectives. The problem is once again the same. Both is not at its proper place. Here the word both is changing adjectives. It means both adjectives. Both adjectives. Actually we want to say something different. That is, boring and bored are, these two words are adjectives. Right? We are not saying both adjectives. We want to say these two words are adjectives. So again the same problem, there is sort of misplaced modification. So if I change this word, if I bring it over here, both over here, now you check, both boring and bored, right, are also crosses adjectives. Don't you think it sounds a bit, both boring and bored are also adjectives. It means these two words are also adjectives. He or she might have referred to something different, but now over here the point is these two words, both boring and bored, are also adjectives. And all of you know, generally speaking, the formula is sometimes we start an expression with both and then we use and. Okay? So this is the case. Both boring and bored are also adjectives. But both adjectives means it is something very quizzical, very, for a layman it might be okay, but in grammar terms it is a sort of snapper. It's a serious mistake. The next point is the ing form is called the present participle. The ing form is called the present participle. Once again, this thing is incorrect in the sense that the ing form is not called the present participle. The correct expression is ing form can be the present participle, right? So it's a very serious problem, right? Most of the teachers, most of the students, it's not that difficult, but they are not clear about this very basic thing, right? How to use this thing. What's meant by ing form? Some people say when a word is right, verb is followed by ing, so that means continuous form. Some say that is this thing, some say something different. So yet what's wrong with this markers? So the ing form is called the present participle. So we cannot say this thing is the case, but we can say ing form can also be the present participle, because ing form has different angles. Okay, so I think let me touch this thing in a little bit detail, right? When we use ing form, so ing form stands for what? Okay, so please try to be clear about this thing. So the purpose is just to make things clear, right? We have no intention of criticizing anyone or something of that sort. Whenever a verb is followed by ing, so we cannot say this is present participle, this is continuous form or whatever. So we can say there are different possibilities. So let's discuss this thing. Ing form can be used in different ways. Whenever a verb is followed by ing, so what are different possibilities? The first is, as you can guess very easily, that is just continuous form. That is just continuous form of that thing. Okay, the first possibility. The second is, as has been said over here, it can be. We cannot say it is called. It can be. So it can be present participle. Okay, fine. Present participle. Are you getting? Okay. The third possibility is whenever a verb ends in ing, so that can be what? That can be a gerund. Right, this topic is a bit confusing, a bit difficult, but we have to. Okay. And the fourth one is, it can be, right, a sort of simple adjective. Simple adjective. Right? So things are not that difficult as they seem, but they are not that easy as we think. I have said that whenever a verb has ing form or ing form, instead of saying that this thing is participle or this or that, we can say, right, at least these four possibilities are there. The first is, it is continuous form of that. The second is, this thing is present participle. The third is, this thing is gerund. And the fourth is, this is a simple adjective, right? So to understand this very concept, we need to be clear about these things first. Okay, continuous form, all of you know, right? Suppose you take any, right, suppose word teach. Suppose teach is a very common word, and we use ing after this. It is just an example. We can take an example. Okay, so if I just say continuous form means, right, he is teaching. Okay, he has been teaching. Okay, they have been teaching. So even a lay folk can guess what is meant by continuous form. Okay, no need of writing even, right? Let just, he is teaching. In this expression, the word teaching is being used as what? Verb. Just continuous form. Okay, but the problem is when we think on these 3-4 things. So even sometimes even this expression, people say, I think it is perhaps gerund. I think it's present participle or something like that. If, right, this sentence is there, everyone can guess that this means that he is teaching. He is just teaching. So this is verb and this is what? Continuous form. Are you getting? This is just continuous form. Clear? The second thing is participle. First of all, try to understand the very concept of participle. Most of us we just go on guessing. Sometimes we say one thing, sometimes we say another. If a student says, sir, this is also, we say, yes, yes, it might be. So one must be 101% sure, right? Because when you're guiding someone, so you're not supposed to misguide, right? Because misguiding someone in my book is a sort of crime, right? If you have no idea about something, so you can say that safely, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not clear about this very thing, okay? So try to understand the concept of participle. What's meant? First of all, be clear about this thing. Participle stands for what? I'm just focusing on this word, right? Participle, yes, any one of you. Participle means what? Participle means, we can define it in a very simple way. We say a participle is a verbal adjective. Participle is a verbal adjective, right? So what's its definition? Participle, what I have said, participle, we say it is a verbal adjective. Verbal adjective, right? This is its definition, basic definition. It's a verbal adjective. What's meant by this thing? Verbal adjective means what? It means, right, something formed from a verb, but that does the job of participle, right? That does the job of adjective. It's formed from some verb, but that is used as sort of adjective. It's a bit confusing, so you have to be a bit, first of all, be clear. Participle means, we are not saying whether it's present participle or past or whatever, that perfect participle. I'm just saying what's meant by participle. The participle stands for any word that we can call a verbal adjective, right? Basically, it's a verb in ing form, but that is used as sort of adjective. Suppose I say, teaching. I enjoyed a lot. Suppose this expression. In this expression, you can guess that this is no way continuous form, is it? Apparently it might be continuous form, but it's not, right? It means, teaching over here means while teaching. It is there in sort of implied form, right? It's understood. While teaching, I enjoyed a lot. So what do you think? Is it continuous form? No. It is sort of quality. It's a sort of quality. And whenever, as I've said, that participle is a verbal adjective. So teaching here means while teaching. Suppose it says swimming. That if that means while swimming, so it is participle. And such participles that end in ing are called present participles. Okay? So participle means it's a verbal adjective, but right, those right participles that end in ing are called, you're not getting my point, they are called present participles. Clear? So teaching, it is a sort of adjective. It is not that process. Teaching, while teaching, running, while running, talking, while talking. So if you are a bit confused, leave it for the moment, right? Let's take something different. But be clear about the thing, participle is a verbal adjective, right? It is something slightly different from routine adjective. Most of us say, okay, so adjective means participle or participle means adjective. It's not the case. Clear? So try to understand this word, gerund. You would have heard some people say, as has been said over here, this ing form is called the present participle. Sometimes teachers say the ing form is called the gerund, but it is incorrect to say this is called. The better way is that we can say that this thing can be this, it can be this, it can be this, it can be this. So what's meant by, what's your perception of gerund? Gerund stands for what? From your very childhood, right, we start, right, listening this sort of things, but no one is that clear. Even some teachers are not that clear. They just guess, okay, the ing form stands for gerund. So gerund means, in case of participle, I have said that it's a verbal adjective. So gerund means what? We say it's a verbal noun. It's a verbal noun. Okay? It's a verbal noun. It means a word is formed from some verb and that has ing, but that is nowhere an adjective. That is a sort of noun-like thing, process-like thing, that thing itself. Okay? Suppose I take the same word. In this expression it was continuous form. Over here it was participle or present participle. This thing is a bit confusing, but whenever you are not clear about the very gender, he or she, even you can just say that this is present participle. Okay, so let's take this example. Gerund means it's a verbal noun. It means any word. That doesn't mean gerunds are nouns. Nouns are gerunds. Gerunds are a sort of, in a way, a type of nouns. Those nouns that are formed from verbs and they have ing. Okay, so what you say? Teaching is not that easy, right? Think for a while. Over here teaching is being used as continuous form. No. Is it showing sort of quality? No. Over here teaching is being used as noun. It is referring to that profession, right? Right? It means teaching as a profession, the profession of teaching. Suppose they say, I have no interest in teaching. Over here, teaching is being used as gerund, the profession of teaching. Suppose you say, take another example, suppose you say, I have no interest in driving. So driving over here means what? Continuous form, participle or something different. I have no interest in driving. It means the profession of driving. That profession, that thing itself, in that case we say, this word is a gerund. Got some idea? It's a bit difficult, but one can learn. It's not that difficult. And the last thing is, that's a verb ending in ing being, and that is used as simple adjective. Don't mix these two, right? Present participles are adjectives, but simple adjective is something different. Even a lay folk knows that simple adjective means, adjectives are what? The word that describe nouns, right? Nice person, good ruler, stupid fellow. Okay, so nice, stupid, these are qualities. So simple adjective is, can we, yes, use this for teaching as simple adjective. If I say I dislike teaching, so over here teaching is being used as noun, the profession of teaching. But if I just actually change it a bit, if I just say I have no interest in the teaching profession. In the teaching profession. Just think for a while. In the teaching profession. So what do you think? What's your perception? Teaching is being used as noun or something different? I have no interest in the teaching profession. Right? You can guess very easily. It's a duck soup. Profession is a noun over here. The word profession is being used as noun. And the word that describes the noun is called adjective. So it means teaching over here is being used as what? Sort of adjective. It's a sort of adjective. I have no interest in the teaching profession. Okay, so it means after a little bit change, things do change a lot. Okay, so these were some examples, but just to be a bit more clear, let's take one more example so that we be clear about the thing. Okay, ing form, right? But do remember the basic concept that ing form can be used as participle, it can be used as noun, it can be used as sort of simple adjective or whatever. Clear? Okay. So ing form. Okay, inshallah. Actually, inshallah, we will continue with the same in the next lecture. I think for today it's enough. Inshallah, see you very soon. Take care. Be in the pen. Thank you very much. See you. Allah.